new?
Not a whole heck of a lot, I'll tell you what.
That's okay. How's your grandpa?
He's doing better. He's getting to where he needs to be, which
Yeah.
is a relief because they caught it real early on, which was good to see.
Well, how did they catch it?
He went in for some sort of checkup because he was coughing and all sorts of stuff, and here they found out he had abnormally high white blood cell count, so
Mmm.
we sent him in to get checked out, and well, there you have it. They found out what was wrong.
Well, as long as they can do something about it,
Right.
right?
Sounds like he's gonna be pretty close to back to normal by the end of the week.
After his 5 to 7 days in the hospital?
Right,
Hey,
exactly.
how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, just I am out walking with Bryson
Oh, yeah.
at a slow pace.
I was gonna say, he probably ain't walking too fast, I'm sure he had a long day.
Yeah, yeah.
Could've got rained out a little bit though.
Oh, really? I suppose, huh?
Yeah, I saw him right after the rain hit Albany,
Oh,
and then he came flying into town, but I'm sure that was short-lived, it was right over lunch, so they probably took lunch and then either went to a different job
Sure.
or finished up.
sure, right?
Yeah. We pulled him off anyway.
Yeah, for a little bit, until this weekend.
Yeah.
It's so 90 degrees. Whoa,
Yeah, it's gonna be nasty out there.
it's gonna be nasty.
You guys wanna go kayaking on Saturday, and it's like,
Ooh.
I don't even know if a whole tube of sunscreen a person is gonna do us much of a favor that day.
Probably not.
But-
Well, it would be nice to be on the water though.
Yeah, no, you got that right.
And
We just
so,
gotta master the art of getting back in the kayak without tipping it once we're in the water.
So you gotta get to sit on once.
yeah.
Yeah, that would be a smart way to go about it.
I know, my wife talked me into that, she goes, well, how are you gonna get the water out if you tip over? I said, well, my plan isn't to tip over, but then started thinking about it, it's like, well, my plan might be to jump in, you ain't getting back in there without bringing it to shore.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
Is the TV ready to?
Yeah, I was actually gonna talk to you about that. That little plug-in mouse deal that you have, that wireless. You know, it's just that little USB port that you plug in.
Uh-huh.
Would we be able to use that so we can scroll through the pictures, or through the
I guess
presentation?
I do have the wireless on, because we switched, right? You have the one with the wire on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that.
Then we might have Jake, either you or Sarah, have to scroll through that presentation with Schwenner.
Okay.
Cause I don't know if it's gonna reach all the way over here.
Right.
I got my doubts.
No, mine gives me problems at work sometimes if something falls behind the
Mm-hmm.
PC and blocks some of it, and it doesn't wanna work as well.
See, we wouldn't even have these problems if we just had one really long cord stretching all the way across here. But, no, so it doesn't look as neat that way.
Well, it's only once a month, right?
True.
Only once a month. So. Did you guys get much rain here yesterday or today?
Today it came down
Yeah, it came down for, what, like 10,
really
15
good.
minutes here?
Yeah,
Really?
so that was nice. I don't know what we got out of it. My daughter has filled up my rain gauge with rocks.
Oh, there is a mouse here, why, are you just don't want to use the wired one?
Well, I guess I could just sit over there for the time they're doing the presentation.
Oh, so what were you thinking? You were wanting to do it from there?
I was thinking of just having Sarah or Jake do the scrolling with Schwenner Leonard.
Ah, gotcha.
But yeah, I can certainly sit over there too, if
Whatever, I just, okay.
that's the easier solution.
Oh, do we have the audit report today?
That's right.
Oh,
Oh, you're in for a
You're
treat.
leaving early.
all right, how did I miss that on the agenda? It's not on the agenda.
It's toward the top.
Oh, Doc,
That's
how did I
Number 2.
miss that?
Number 2, Carol.
I'm in La La Land already.
Here's the-
No signal.
Oh.
Uh,
why, it was working just fine today.
Is one of the things you're printing off the sign-in sheet?
Yeah.
Or I can do it if if you wanna do this, I can do it.
Yeah, could you do that, please?
Yep, I can do that.
Well, no different, I can't get my phone to work in my car. It won't connect.
What?
Yeah. It's like, what the heck's wrong with this? I'd answer the phone manually.
There we go, now we're cooking with gas.
Just gotta know what you're doing, right?
Easier said than done some days.
Yeah.
Come on, got it with it here. Oh, there it is, he was trying to move the mouse over there.
I'm moving it on your screen though,
You got full control.
but I don't have it on the,
Is it not moving it there?
no, I'm already on like a different
Oh,
slide.
yeah.
Here, you can take it.
So why we gotta be like this? There we go, now we got her. Oh, I think to go back, you just gotta click on the right side of the screen, or the left side of the screen, excuse me.
You can set up this device manually so you can control it with a smart remote.
I ain't gonna worry about that right now. Try clicking on the left side of the screen there, see if it goes back. Hasn't used PowerPoint in a couple of years.
I think they're forward. No?
Let me try that. Just click exit.
I think he actually came in.
So I won't click on that.
Okay, now go ahead and click on the present up top.
Then this was straight in.
So then, I guess you just gotta.
Yeah.
It's at the end of it though.
And it's like, but, you know, keeping cars. Yeah. Because it doesn't look better.
Alright, now we're getting things figured out again. One way or the other, we'll make it work.
There you go.
Save electricity. Oh, he didn't hear.
Technology's finally working with us,
How many of
guys.
these were you printing?
I think I had 4 or 5.
That's 5 minutes to the
Okay.
door.
Oh, you dropped in.
Yeah, I
Hear you what we're in for.
Oh, yeah, we're spending more money tonight than,
God damn it.
Yep, tonight's the big one.
Hold on, I gotta get my WSB cup.
Still here? Good evening, Jake, how you doing?
Good, how are you doing?
Good.
Yeah.
Can we just keep this over, man?
Do you have an extra question?
Yeah.
That'll look just fine on the live stream, to have the coffee cup, the coffee bar right to me too.
Hey, how are you?
Bobby, you want? Have there any summer fun things this year? You doing summer fun things?
I got it.
It's portable. Get into it.
Good job.
Oh, God.
Does she have a house?
I'm not even sure that's.
There's a lot of stuff too. I was thinking if he didn't need,
Yeah,
might
probably especially that
needed
generation.
somebody, I could throw one game for him. That's the biggest thing, I have. But then I was thinking, I'm like,
Right.
Thursday before we leave, and we can smash
Thank you.
You don't even have to really throw it, if you want to, just have me at 10 Friday there.
Oh, we're live streaming, huh?
Or live stream.
Would you
Well, I
want
knew
to check the
that worst
thermostat?
case scenario.
What's that?
Would you want to check the thermostat and see what it says? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm a little warm, but it could be because I've been moving around.
Nice to,
74, yeah, I could probably turn that down a little bit.
Yeah.
something for the, all the wine stuff.
I was gonna say, it is noticeably warmer in here than out there.
Those guys don't have their shit together and pass everything. Then the shutdown, we basically would have to pull everything from the bar.
Oh, no, I get a vacation.
If they go-
It's actually, oh, no. Uh-uh. No, we've gone camping a couple times already. I'm going again this weekend. We went on a motorcycle trip, on Memorial Day weekend. So.
Maybe it was the
You
same
see, we don't like the hot, humid weather, so we try to do things in the spring and fall weekend.
That's the one that.
Pay attention.
Well, it's 4th of July, so we'll have to
When
do,
they're working on it.
yeah, my family, my mom and dad, and other people from where I grew up,
Good
all
Lord, how about you?
every year, so.
So if they
That's
don't,
a tradition we do.
literally, if they don't figure it out, we'd have to pull every game.
It will be up in the hills in South Dakota a little bit, by a lake, so it is a little cooler up there. Kind of. No, it's actually Western. It's only about,
So last year might have been a little high.
3 hours from Melrose, just almost straight west. It's west of Sisseton. You know where Sisseton is?
So Sarah.
Goes, you go up in the hills a bit,
Go ahead.
that way. Roy Lake State Park is the place we go.
No, he said.
That was actually,
I had a question, so if I go out over from your yard with those sprinklers pop up and then take a.
There was a last
twist
school week.
towards my yard, that's okay.
sure, it's
Oh.
okay for the water.
Work. Oh, interesting. I was born
Maybe I
to
just shouldn't have said it.
I was. Yeah.
There you go.
Right. Yeah, so I grew up
You're just looking
near
at
Ross's,
this,
which
don't
is
you?
just, it's in South Dakota.
I need
Yeah,
that,
well, it's
times how
pronounced
much
the
is
H is not
discharge?
Rossel, but yeah, it's French.
Yeah, 7
Figure out pounds.
Minnesota legislators.
That's a concentration, so we need a volume.
That was close to 7.
Oh, ice chicken check? No. Yeah, that's, on the lake? Okay. You just little confused. Yeah, no, I don't think that's.
We were kind of living up to the northwest corner of clear nights, you can see the system.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's more at the sidelines, there is in the.
She says that,
Yeah, there's no,
You were in the crowd, huh?
I'll be joining the nice, beautiful meeting.
So we should just do what the NFL did, get a whole bunch of cutouts and set them in the.
Exactly.
We were looking
What's going on?
Well. Education and tax
just.
You just start your lawn,
How about
in
you?
the spring as in the fall?
Oh, it's,
So,
it's a busy afternoon.
Really?
Like,
20 wasn't too much, 19.
No one's ran out of money yet, you progress?
there are a few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm interested. So that this isn't an area then? That track?
Fixing exterior doors.
Yeah.
Just push all over.
Push some over, but
This is like a show, huh?
Huh?
A little bit of a shit show.
straight back.
Boy, that'd be something.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Wow. Hey, Ronnie.
Hi.
We've got something on the screen for you as well. So
Oh, there you go.
take care of doing that with mine.
Perfect. Sounds good. Got some hard copies passed out.
Yep.
How about you?
Oh, it's one of the busiest weeks of the year. Green. Got it. Oh.
Really?
You know what? Honestly, I think no one works anymore.
Nobody works on Fridays.
No.
Okay.
You didn't say so, that's Tuesday.
Yeah, there's some.
Tim does. No one has a job. Oh, you got to.
Thank you. That seems definitely wrong, maybe not.
They keep adding more requirements.
Oh.
Oh, I hear ya. I hear ya.
That's why we do a summarized version.
No kidding.
Okay,
Who wants to read
more
this?
paper.
Pretty close.
You
Oh,
guys
I see, they're not two-sided.
Yeah, so that's your phosphorus and all that.
We know what it is.
We insert some blank pages.
Actually, usually there's two-sided, I think, and these are just one-sided. No?
Or if it's a PDF.
Yes, I like
Hey,
it.
isn't that it?
We do that for some cities, there's a lot of blank pages.
Sarah?
Yeah.
She's the
We like both.
Yep.
Well, actually, we're going to.
Keep pushing
It's
it
not even
back.
halfway yet, so we've been doing good at that.
Maybe.
King's Lake's around, but guess what, there's, they get all the garbage stuff right outside that west side.
I did my math right here. Discharge 25 phosphorus.
Did you add in?
Yeah. Well, I've got it written down on mine, I'm just gonna add it when I read
Yeah.
But our fall number is going to be 3 times that.
Oh, yeah, you printed it out.
Yep.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Mike Sheffield, right at the beginning of his business,
you must have good
or
eyes.
we're going with
With your glasses.
For any state, I think, probably.
So let me see the same thing. We're at the beginning, we're in a new.
I guess it's summarized.
Oh, I'm looking for a really confused version. That was only keep the date. How do you know that? Did you see that already?
No.
Pushing.
Oh, he's passed them all.
This number.
I think this is. Oh, yeah, this is a part.
This is.
Oh, perfect. Pictures and everything? Oh, man.
Pictures, color pictures.
You know, some reason pictures go over well.
Pie charts, you got pie charts?
Oh, all sorts of stuff in here.
Oh,
And light reading, obviously.
Oh, yeah, there's graphs in there.
Yeah, we get 180 a year.
So they did a couple.
oh gosh, they need a raise. Add another
180 kilograms.
For the colored ink.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, I think they probably did it the first time. How'd you guys charge me? How'd you guys charge me?
That's insane.
Said they had.
Spend more money.
So I'll report that.
No.
kilograms of material. So we have,
They're still trying to.
that's in milling, yeah, so that's from milling. That's-
Well, that looks like the lumber
that's parts of
price
land or-
index. The green is where it is, the red is where it should be.
The purpose of
Yeah, and the blue is what we tried to get.
Gallons.
And those are facts. That's-
It splits fish trap.
Everyone must know this is board meeting, once here.
Kilograms.
I don't know, they want you to go to. How much money you got?
Well, we see it, they can actually
No, I
watch
got
it
it
on the live stream this time
all.
around.
And then, you got that working?
Kilograms of this.
Yeah, she's working.
Yeah, you are on top of it.
You should have happened back in the day, but.
What'd you say?
Usually the auditors pay for extra.
But some people may not be
So
on
yeah, so
vacation,
we'll
right?
just do it.
Yeah.
So, oh, I didn't.
What? According to my wife.
I was checking.
It pulls up at the whole meeting. Thank you. Thanks.
At least she loves you, wants to watch you in action here.
I think she wants to know when I'm
Oh, meeting's over, why aren't you home yet?
Phone with the
Meeting's on, so what, come back. Some people are-
we're tracing down raccoons in the alley. We had to get pest control. That buys you about an hour.
Oh, for sure.
Like these two numbers, so I just take the averages.
That's what I thought.
Can you actually shoot guns here? Whoa. It's going on
You
here.
just call it 125 because
The rabbits running around. Guys, you get 22 to start check them? I'm like, absolutely not. I said, guaranteed. Sure. I'm like, absolutely not. I said, don't even think about it. Oh, why do you shoot guns down there? That's solely for the punks to kill.
Yeah, well, and then that's probably under Minneapolis, St. Paul.
The old, as well as the other, we're trying to cut it.
I think that is.
But it's still, Tony is still enforcing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So,
just look what you point at.
Yeah, I guess out there like, hold on, this starts the conversation, can I shoot guns in town? Oh, my God.
it's a good way to start.
Yeah.
That's right, it's a bullet point.
Your neighbor's dog can't keep pissing off that.
Okay, so 35.
Already said.
A few times all that. Put 2, 5, 10, 7.
Oh, I'm not putting my back.
That's what I see. That's
divided by 10.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, or just from the floor.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I don't know what the deal is. Because it's showing on our end, but then as soon as I load it onto another screen from the actual search, then it's just empty council chambers.
All right, any changes to the agenda? What?
Yeah, we do have the addition of Eddie Atkinson and the irrigation for the ballpark. Well, under new business, item A.
Okay, for Eddie's sake, let's, like you said, let's move that to A, and calm everything else down. Those the only changes?
Yep.
Okay, we have a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Motion's to second.
I'll say it.
Seconds, all in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, carried. All right, 2020 audit presentation.
All right. That me up there?
Sure.
You wanna run your mouth?
I suppose.
Alright, well, I'm gonna walk us through the results of the 2020 audit here. So you have a summarized version in front of you, which is just a PowerPoint, then I also handed out the full audit financial statements. So moving into the first page here, just gonna start out by kind of talking about what is the audit process, real high level, give everybody a refresher about that, and then what is the opinion that we gave you this year. As you can see, audit essentially consists of us coming in, obtaining your financial records, and performing various procedures over them related to the past year. So we perform inquiries with people within the city, we obtain various documentation from within the city and from outside vendors and the bank and the state, and we perform sampling procedures over this information. And as a result of all of this, we are then able to express an opinion on whether or not we feel that your financial statements are accurate. And the opinion that we've expressed this year is what's called an unmodified opinion. So in other words, it's a clean opinion. It's the best opinion we can achieve. Same as in prior years. Next page is a few other required communications. This is where if there were any difficulties during the audit as far as obtaining information or disagreements with people within the city or anything like that, this is where we would let you know about it. As you can see, no issues along those lines. Everything went very smoothly. It's an extremely smooth audit. The one item we always do like to point out is that there are a couple balances and items in the financial statements that there's some significant estimates behind them. So if you see anything having to do with the net pension liability or the related deferred inflows or outflows, that all relates to that statewide pension plan, PARA's pension plan. And they provide us those numbers, and we just have to incorporate them into your financials. Just something to be aware of. As part of the audit, we also have to look at your processes and procedures in place. And if we see any issues with how you're going about your accounting transactions or your practices, this is where we would give you some sort of recommendation or finding related to internal controls. The only two items we have here are just a couple really standard and required findings that we have on pretty much every city that we work with. And the first one here is just saying that there's a lack of segregation of duties. This is just due to how many staff you have. You only have so many people that are involved with the accounting process. Pretty standard. And then also we have one here related to financial statement preparation. And this is letting the readers know that we as a third party do prepare your financial statements on your behalf. And whenever that's the case, there's theoretically a slightly heightened risk that there could be a missing disclosure or some sort of error because we're not within the city. Now the one finding that you do not see here, which we do have on most of our cities, relates to material audit adjustments. So most of the cities we work with, we have to give a finding because we post audit adjustments at the end of the year to make corrections. Here we actually don't really have any audit adjustments. So it's a very clean audit, and that's better than what we see at most cities we work with. And one more item before we get into the numbers here. As part of the audit, we also have to review your compliance with various Minnesota statutes. The Office of the State Auditor gives us checklists of all these different areas of compliance that we go through and review various transactions and documentation related to this. The one item that we do have noted this year is that the report of outstanding indebtedness, which is just a report that gets filed with the county each year, it was 1 day late. And not that there's really any impact of it being 1 day late or any consequence, but we did have to make a note of it. Okay, with that, we'll get into the numbers. First few pages here just focus on the general fund, since this is where the majority of the city's general activities fall. So we have a trend analysis here showing 2016 through 2020, and then we also have 2020's budget on the right-hand side. So just really high level right here, looking at revenues in the blue, expenditures in the red, and then that fund balance is just the end of the year balance at the end of each year there. So high level, comparing actual results to the budget, revenues came in over budget by about $8,500, $8,600. Expenditures came in below budget though by about $29,000. You also had a transfer out of the general fund to your other funds of about $72,500, which is right on budget. And with that, you had an overall increase in your general fund balance of about $37,000 down in that right-hand corner of this page, compared to you budgeted to essentially break even. So you ended the year with a fund balance in the general fund of about $669,000. The next couple pages here take that same information and just break it out into a little bit greater detail. So we've got revenues for the general fund on this page, and then the next page is expenditures. Now, we've got 2019 in the blue, 2020 in the red, and then the 2020 budget in the green. And typically what I do here is I just jump to a couple categories where you have some bigger differences between your budget and actual results. But you can see pretty much every category is right on the budget as far as your revenues go. So there's not really a whole lot to talk about here. The only thing that really stands out at all would be that your taxes and assessment revenue is up just a little bit in 2020 compared to 2019. Other than that, everything here is pretty comparable from year to year and compared to the budget. Expenditures on the next page, same exact layout. First thing I note is that pretty much every category for expenditures is below budget, except capital outlay was right about on budget, just a little bit over. So areas where your differences from actual expenses to the budget were a little bit greater. General government, you had expenditures under budget of about $7,600. And then public works, you were under budget by about $16,000. But once again, very close to budget. Okay, and then the next page here, we're focusing on your fund balance in the general fund. So this is looking at your fund balance at the end of the year as a percentage of your annual budget. So this is a common ratio that's used because it allows you to compare yourselves to cities of all sorts of different sizes. So you have a policy in place for this ratio to be about 50% as a minimum. And you can see you're well in excess of that. You're actually up to about 195% at the end of the year. And there's kind of two items that are driving this increase. For one thing, you did have an increase in your fund balance of about $37,000, but then also your expenses decreased. So the two combined increases this ratio quite a bit. All right, so that's it for your general fund. Now we'll just go through each one of your other funds here pretty quick. Debt service fund and area fire service fund here. These are the two other governmental funds that are considered to be major funds simply because they have more activity in them. The debt service is pretty standard. It's your taxes and assessment revenue coming in and then making those required debt payments that are scheduled. Overall, you had a decrease in your fund balance here of about $98,000 as you're working down that fund and you're getting close to paying off that related debt. Area fire service fund, charges for services in there, some revenues from the state and donations, and then of course your operating costs for fire protection services. Overall, you had an increase in fund balance there of about $78,000. On the next page shows the fund balance for those two funds over the past 5 years, as well as your other non-major funds. So your non-major funds that we're not showing in detail here, that would be various capital project funds, your EDA fund, TIF fund, etc. We lump all of those together just because there's not as much going on. So you can see those funds, it's a pretty steady increase over the past 5 years in the fund balance. That's the green line you see up there. The line that's headed downwards, that debt service fund, that's because, like I talked about, you have two bonds that are being financed. I suppose by now one of them's paid off, actually. One of them got paid off in 2021. The next one gets paid off in 22. So you're kind of tapering that fund off as you're coming close to when your fund is paid off. And then your area fire service fund, you can see it's been on a bit of an upward trend over the past few years. All right, moving on to your proprietary funds, which is your water and sewer funds. Focusing more so on operations with the graph here. We have your water fund on this first page, showing green as the operating revenues compared to operating expenses in the red. See, pretty consistent over the past several years. Revenues in 2020 up about $5,000 compared to the previous year. Operating expenses up about $10,000. So overall, you got operating revenues of about $25,000 for the year. With your non-operating activity factored in, which is miscellaneous revenues, interest on your debt, and then also a $41,000 transfer to the general fund, you had a net decrease in your net position of about $30,000 for the year. And similar layout on the next page here for your sewer fund. Revenues very consistent from 2019 to 2020. Expenses, on the other hand, dropped off a fair amount, down about $26,000 from 2019 to 2020. And with that non-operating activity, which in this case is mostly just that $41,000 transfer out to the general fund, you still had an increase of about $19,000 in this fund. And the next page just shows the cash in both of these funds over the past 5 years. As you can see, both of them have been on an upward trend, particularly the sewer fund. Sewer fund's up about $40,000 from the prior year, and the water fund up about $10,000.
Just when does, question, when is that 4% that?
2021.
2021?
Yep.
Thank you.
So that kind of does it for your fund level financials. We've got a couple final pages here that wrap everything together and we look at it all kind of consolidated. This first slide here is looking at your total citywide assets, including your infrastructure and non-current assets. And we have the same slide for liabilities coming up. Basically, you can see your assets overall held steady from 2019 to 2020. A little bit of a decrease in your infrastructure on the books at least, as we appreciate that, but it was made up by an increase in your current assets like cash and receivables, etc. And next page. So even though your assets are holding steady, your liabilities actually went down a fair amount, mostly with your payments that you've made on your long-term debt. So with those regularly scheduled payments, your liabilities dropped off a bit, and actually, if we just keep moving right on to the next page, you'll see that a little bit more right here. This final page is just your long-term debt over the past 5 years, broken out between governmental funds, so debt that's being financed primarily by taxes and assessments, compared to your business type funds, so debt that's being financed by your water and sewer funds. Those governmental funds, that debt's going to be paid off by 2022 here, and then your business type funds, 2033 and 2052, so there's a good time on those. Any questions?
Define that one more time between governmental funds and business funds.
Yep. So governmental funds, well, I'll start with business type funds. So business type funds are funds that are theoretically supposed to be, for the most part, self-sustaining. So your water fund and your sewer fund are supposed to, for the most part, be self-sustaining. And then your governmental funds are all of your other funds that are financed by taxes and assessments and other state aids and that sort of thing. So typically, if you do like a road improvement or something like that, it's going to fall under governmental funds because you're going to assess for that or levy for it. But if you're doing some sort of infrastructure that relates to water and sewer, then that debt will fall into your business type funds.
As a whole, any red flags?
No, I mean, like I said, very clean audit, very clean, and I think you've got a really strong financial position, so no red flags at all, actually.
Jonas to thank for a lot of communication and organization on this.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, she does a great job prepping for us.
Thank you. good news.
There you go, all good.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yep, thank you.
No, I can't.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah.
Open public forum. Alright, close the public forum. Consent agenda.
Yes, sir. Yep,
Anything that anybody,
Oh,
I just had regarding the minutes of the last meeting, the Mossman variance, that they are to have that lot surveyed so we can accept the
oh,
variance numbers that were presented.
yeah, correct. Yep, that should be added in there.
Yep.
In the minutes,
Okay, just,
so that gets added in there.
Yep.
Okay.
we need a motion to, accept the audit,
Oh,
the financial statements.
right. All right, backtracking a minute. Do we have a motion to accept the audit results?
I'll make a motion.
Take motions. Sarah seconds. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? Carried. Back again. So Wyatt, you will add that in about the, getting the lot surveyed?
Yep.
Okay.
So I have a question as well. So those workers' comp premium, so we have work comp on like the buildings, parks, and garbage refuse collection, what's that? We have this work comp on our employees.
Where are you at?
I'm on page 4.
That is, so we give them a breakdown of, you know, an estimate of salaries.
Okay.
And because, especially Lauren, you know, his salary gets divided up into lots of different chunks, because he does a lot of different things around town. So part of his job is picking up the garbage bags and things like that. So we just take a percentage of the salary and they assign that percentage to the work
Okay.
comp as well.
Okay.
That's kind of why that's
Sure.
broken out like that.
Okay, thanks for the explanation, appreciate that.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Take motions.
I'll second.
Tim seconds. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? Carried. All right, clerk report.
Okay, so first thing, cars will be doing the removal of the underbrush from the Welly 3 edition. That's all the underbrush that's out there, for the approved amount of $1,000 from the council. The work will be done on Wednesday, June 30th, and carry over to Thursday, July 1st. Second, we had 6 bids received for the 2021 infrastructure and street repair project, with the bid being awarded to Keep the Underground for $1,846,052.78. City Hall will be closed on Monday, July 5th, in observance of Independence Day. And for the last, we have water shutoffs will be resuming since mandates have been lifted.
Are there a couple of those?
Yeah. What's that?
There are a few of them.
Yes.
When is the mandate?
I believe it was back in May, actually, so.
We need to send them
A letter?
So letters should be sent out, yes. And they will be sent out.
Very good. That all?
The underbrush, what was that all again? Was that actually in the street? The, like where the streets would be in that phase 3? That's what they're taking up, like the trees and stuff like that?
Right, so the
Well-
underbrush was all of the small trees, I think they were up to like 5 inches in diameter. All that stuff can be gone over with the brush mower. And then they said after that $1,000 is done, then we can get a more accurate estimate of what it's gonna cost to take out the remaining, larger trees to finish up that work.
Because they were gonna go up to that retaining pond though, were they not?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So all that brush is gonna be out of there for that $1,000 that we had approved.
Okay. Any other questions? Joan, anything treasurer?
Not really, I'm just working on getting, everything straight after the audit's done now, and, next month I'll have a report for you for the second quarter financials.
Back to that too for a second, when I was on treasurer. Thank you for doing an awesome job always. That, from what that was 6 years ago or better, that's the night and day difference. Thank you.
Happy to.
Fire chief is out of town. Wyatt, you wanna take the fire department report?
I can do that. So the fire department, in the month of June, had a total of 12 calls for the month. 9 were medical calls and 3 were mutual fire aid, between Melrose, Albany, and New Munich. And the Father's Day ham barbecue served 836.
That's pretty impressive.
Very good. Lauren, Public Works?
Besides that bid you see in there, I really don't have anything.
Favor to ask, can you get Lauren, Wyatt? So like this one ends on like 6/7.
Yep.
Get it like up to before, like council.
Okay,
Thank you. So this is for the brush mower, or what is this?
yep,
And we do or we don't have one?
we do not have one.
We don't have a brush mower at all. Oh. Okay.
No, we just said, what did we have for the John Deere, the big John
The
Deere?
side,
It's like a side
Cutter.
mower or something like that.
and he just priced out the 7 foot. He said you don't wanna put anything smaller on it, cause they're all light duty. And he said the tires will be too wide, you'll have tracks or whatever. But he said this is a heavy duty one.
So like what could we, so looking at the applications, what can we all use this for, realistically? Ponds? Ponds, like, would this be something that would be used on that south end part that doesn't park?
You could, as long as it's dry. I don't, but if you had a wet ground, your tractor tires are gonna dig.
Rub it up.
I mean, you still cut it, but,
Making the indentations.
yeah,
So we've been cutting that part at all or no? That one?
yep,
Yeah, you guys use mowers for that.
yep.
This, I thought we wanted a quote for phase 3 of the Welly edition, is that right? Is that kind of where this was going? Because it's more of a brush cutter, so it,
So is this something that we could use at the industrial park too, to stay on top of, because like what we did with hiring cars that one year, to come in and, I mean,
I don't know how I don't know how it would work on an embank. So you're going down, you're going around a pond, so you're going down. I don't know how these work if you can raise it and then lower down. I can't answer that.
Well, and then another option that seems to be the more popular alternative is to just use a herbicide to keep all that down from there. After it's already cut and everything, to just spray that once a year and keep it all from coming back and nip it in the bud to begin with.
I'm pretty sure that's what the county does. After they cut it, they go and spray it. But the county, like what I've noticed, is they do actually have like a lawn, like a brush cutter that actually lifts down and can get in them ditches. I don't know if we can, if this is the same thing, I don't know, but.
Cause this would just be a pull behind the tractor.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't.
Well, there's a pole behind it, like a separate board? This is
No,
like,
PTO.
this is a 3-point,
Yeah.
This
PTO
PTO.
thing. Rolling some dice here, and just to think about this, and I don't even know if this is a direction. We have $5,071. What if the city rented a tractor and a brush mower 1 day a year to do welly, do, if needed, do down there? I'm just guessing we could get a brush mower for a day and a tractor for probably $400. It's a guess. That's 12.5 years to looking at this.
Those most likely 3 developed, and we're not having.
You
We won't have
can use it.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I don't
and
know how long it's gonna
when
take.
cars was, so I mowed it last week one day, all the way up to the brush. So everything from like, I don't know if you guys know where Roger Welly lives, all the way back to where the road will be. So everything on this side of the roads all got mowed. It took me about 3 hours, and I did it with the big lawnmower. And when cars was here, they said what they grind down will be low enough that you can mow over it with a lawnmower as long as you mow it twice a year. Where then they won't come back up.
Okay. Maybe we should add that.
yeah.
Or just
Cause like I mowed it now and I won't mow it again till,
in August,
yeah.
or September.
But you would mow it as it's needed, right?
You're talking the Welly 3 part or that park? That park gets mowed when we mow the rest of town.
Okay, so what
That
about,
park is
what about
always-
the Welly 3 part? You would mow that as it's needed too, right?
Or you just, usually we, like that one is cut as high as it is. I mean, everything is raised up as high as it is and you just cut it down to look.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's my point, is that, so like, if the city is doing a thing on getting after people's houses, making things look nice, we have a noxious weed ordinance, right? So we should probably be the ones leading the way to keep it below whatever that threshold is, right? I'm just looking for consistency there.
But isn't some of Welly's 3 is like not? I
Well,
mean,
but that's what the cars
if
thing.
you go
that's
way
what-
back there,
But that's what the cars thing is going to,
God, there's rock, I mean, it'd be,
There's a lot of stuff there.
well, right.
right.
I was there when, I mean, you wouldn't even call it Welly's 3, you just call it, I don't know what you would call
Those 3.
it. Yeah.
I personally think that this wouldn't be needed. I would rather see that go into a snow brush maybe clean out sidewalks a little bit easier, or use that as far as one of the lawnmowers is starting to be pretty shabby.
Because then we can talk about that too.
Right. So I think I would rather see that money spent in a new tractor at some point, or an attachment for, for moving snow and stuff. And with cars coming in at $1,000, I mean, even if you did that once a year, that's 5 years, right?
Mm-hmm, right, right.
So, I mean, if you made them go out there and do that. But once they have this done, it sounds like we should be able to kind of keep an eye on it a little bit easier.
Did you get a bid on the lawnmower?
No.
No?
Cause that was the big one is the one he said was getting pretty,
Well, he said it's rough. It's rough riding. And I did ask him, I'm like, so, he's got them fancy ones out there they look so fancy and cool.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I said, how do them ride? He goes, you wouldn't wanna sit in them. They're all rough. He said, they're gonna ride rough, that's just how they are.
I wasn't sure if he was saying like just overall condition of it's getting,
Oh, and it's,
wore out or,
they're tough starting machines.
Right.
right.
I mean, we haven't touched
They're
that.
getting old.
think the last thing we did was bought a bagger for it.
For the zero turn.
Yeah. That was the last thing I think we did for an equipment purchase for that.
That was before I started, cause I put it together when I started.
Is that what you, I remember that. So we can ignore the brush cutter?
I would think so, I would think that it would be kind of used a handful of times and then sits there.
Right.
So then you want that Welly 3 cut a couple more times a year just to keep it at that.
So can we use that, so that big tractor more, can we use that on there if it's like rough riding? Could you use that tractor and that side cutter that we do have now, this is a glorified lawnmower essentially, could we use that on Wally 3? I mean, it'll save a lot of time, I'm guessing it's probably twice the size of a lawnmower.
I've never tried it real low, so I don't know how low it cuts.
Yeah, I don't know either.
So if you're still sitting at that 8
We're not making
inches,
Yeah, I'm making it a golf course, we just gotta get it low enough to, like you said, keep it looking good from the road.
If Carr says you can do it once a year with a regular lawnmower, you think even that, you cut it a little higher with that one 3 times a year? I don't know. Right now, there's not a whole lot growing besides weeds.
I don't know if this mower deck that looks in that big tractor, I don't know what it looks like, I mean, I personally don't see you guys use it very often, but maybe we should go look at it and see if it can work out, I have no idea, but maybe we should start there before we purchase this.
Right. Yeah, Jake said.
Yeah, that's one thing that Jason Stevie from Carnes kind of emphasized is that it doesn't really need to be cut more than twice a year because it's mostly underbrush rather than weeds, grass, yeah. So he said that if we maintain it, at least keep it cut twice a year, then it shouldn't rise up like it has in the past.
Okay. Anything else about works?
I'm good unless you got something.
David, engineer.
Good evening. All right, so Wyatt covered the bid in his, so he gets credit for that cost, so I'm not gonna take that under mine. No, we'll start out with the order of my memo here. So, first thing in my memo, Pollution Control Agency was kind enough to reach out to us and tell us we have a phosphorus limit on our ponds now. It's a pass-through limit from the EPA, but they finally just got around to giving us our limit. So, how this limit works is we are allowed to discharge so many kilograms of phosphorus per year, 180 to be particular, to be precise. Our ponds discharge 2 to 3 times a year, depending on the year. And Lauren takes samples, we figure out how much phosphorus is leaving our ponds, multiply that by the amount of gallons we send out, and then we know how many kilograms we discharge for that particular year. So in 2020, we discharged about 100 kilograms of phosphorus downstream, and our limit is 180. So 2020, we were fine. I haven't looked back, 2019 was a lot wetter. I have a feeling that we were probably a little closer to our 180, but I don't think we were above it. So, long story short, I don't think we have anything to do with this right now, but we do need to respond to PCA. So the first thing I would like to see us do is ask for a 90-day extension, because they gave us 30 days to put something together that's just not realistic for us to make sure we're covering ourselves. And second, then we need to get a phosphorus management plan put together and run our numbers to see where we're at. Now, because we did a whole bunch of sewer work recently, that's gonna help, because some of this work is done already. So that's a good deal. Laura and I were just running the 2020 numbers just right now, and like I said, we're at 100 kilograms for the year. So, mostly good news. There are things we can do if our numbers are creeping up. There are chemicals you can add that settle out the solids in there, which is where the phosphorus hangs on. We just make sure we kill any weeds on the surface before we discharge. Basically, anything that's living has phosphorus in it and makes our numbers look worse. Yeah, Mike?
Why did they change our limit? Did you already address that?
Not really. So our limit has always really been there, but it was never enforced because we're far enough upstream from where the point of concern is. So they've been working their way up from Lake Pepin this direction. So this is finally getting to us. It's an EPA limit, it's not an MPCA limit. MPCA is forced to do it through the EPA. So as much as we might call the MPCA the bad guy, they're not in this case. They're doing it as they have to. So the nice thing though is they've given us that mass limit, which is a total kilograms per year, rather than a concentration limit. So a concentration limit means we could never discharge over 1 pound or 1 part per million phosphorus. And that would be a problem, because 2 out of our 3 discharges were over that 1 part per million. Not much, but we are over it. But in the spring, our limit, or we're very low, like less than 0.5. So that makes up for it, because you're just averaging it out over the years what's happening. It's also based on our total capacity of our ponds instead of what we're actually discharging, so that's why we get up to 180. It's a calculation based on our maximum capacities, that 180 is how they get it. It is not a straightforward conversation. It has a lot of chemistry to it, and it has a lot of wastewater background to it. But in the end, like I said, I think we're okay. We just need to show it to PCA that we are okay and that we don't need to do anything with it, and probably won't for an extended period of time.
And phosphorus comes from?
Phosphorus is basically any plant material. It's in our detergents. It's in, that's honestly, our soaps and stuff is a big source of it.
Okay.
Anything that clean water entering from, let's say, even lawns and stuff would contribute phosphorus. Average influent, what's our influent phosphorus right now? 4 parts per million about. So our ponds are knocking it down from that 4 number to, in the spring, about 0.5, in the fall, up to about 1.5. And that's just because you have algae growth in the fall, and in the spring, there's nothing out there. It's sat for a long time. You're discharging very, very clean water. In the fall, it hasn't maybe sat quite as long, there's algae growing in it. It just tends to be higher.
So you said there is chemical we can put in the
Yep.
ponds to take care of it?
Yeah, so we can add alum as a chemical that you basically broadcast into our secondary pond or our last pond. It just settles out the solids. You end up with more sludge in your ponds because of it, but at the same time, you meet your limits. We don't have a sludge problem in Freeport right now. We've done some checking in the past, and there's not a lot out there. So really, I don't see that as a problem. So that is going to be the ultimate answer, is if our limits are being exceeded, we'll add alum.
So how long does that probably to work?
What's that?
How long does it take to work?
The alum? It
Yes,
starts really quick.
Does it? Okay.
When we had that washout out there a couple years ago, I went out there and then there was tile from pungs. Does that directly, that doesn't go into the pond, does it? It's routed around it, I would.
Right.
Okay, I didn't pay attention to where it actually
Yeah,
ran, but.
It goes through that culvert, and then it goes out to the freeway ditch.
Okay.
Yeah, the old 52 there goes down the ditch, and then, yeah, so it's separate from the ponds.
Okay.
But that would be a good, shallow tile like that in a field that there is manure spread
Right.
would be a very high source, or a potential very high source of phosphorus, so.
Okay.
But we're not getting into
We are not getting at that, no, that is not entering our ponds. Like I said, so the ponds are functioning as they're supposed to. As we approach our capacity limit, it will probably be an issue. As we clean up our I&I with our projects here, things are gonna only get better as far as our flows to the ponds. Honestly, right now, they could use some more water, they're a little low, just because we haven't seen a lot. But that's a great problem to have. So long story short, when we do this, first thing I wanna do is get that letter to PCA ASAP saying, can you give us a 90-day extension? Of those requested, I've seen 100% granted at this point, so we're going to get our extension.
Is that a motion or just direction?
I would say, let's make it a motion, it's official then.
We have a motion to authorize staff to submit an extension letter.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, motions, I'll second that. 2 seconds, in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
So I'll get some language over to Wyatt to have him prep it, and I think it probably needs to come from you, Mike. I think your name's on the permit, so we'll need you to sign that over and send it in. But again, I think our deadline is coming up shortly in July here, so want to get that thing out probably this week if possible.
So after we have all this stuff kind of somewhat fixed, then in another year from now, we should see that helping quite a bit with even this.
Yeah, we should.
This level.
Yeah, we should. So, yeah, we're gonna notice when I go through, we have to go through 5 years of data to show PCA that we are currently meeting our limit. as we go through those 5 years of data, we're gonna see those years where we have really high flows, that our phosphorus numbers are going to be up, just because of, just flat out how it works. I mean, you're just discharging that much more water, so the number you're multiplying by is higher, so your number's gonna be higher in the end. Like I said, I'm confident we haven't exceeded that 180 pounds at any point here, but we probably got really close in 2018, if I had to guess. It was wet, especially late. So that's gonna be the concern is if we continue to have infiltration and inflow, upping our flows into the ponds. If we knock some of that down, our problem is better. Because we can just discharge less volume, that's the key. So, like I said, I don't think this is a doom and gloom thing, it is something we have to take care of and stay on top of, but I think we can make it so that there's really honestly no additional cost to us at this point, aside from some time to put it together, that's gonna be it.
Okay.
All right, local road improvement program. We were 48 out of 105. The top 16 were funded. I'm told there were ties between us and 16, but they won't tell me how many. So, with the way the legislature is working right now, I don't see them appropriating enough funds to get us funded for 7th Street, because that would take quite a bit, based on the numbers above us. But if that road could wait, and I don't know that it can, I would certainly want to apply again next year, but I think that's probably a future conversation about how long that road can wait, because like I said, I don't know that it can.
So, say it can't wait, what are our options now for 7th Street Southeast?
All right, so there's a couple options with it. So the way we had initially planned to do it, we were gonna reclaim the road, grind up all the pavement that's out there, and turn it into base to help the structure of our road. And then just pave on top of that.
Right.
Okay? In order to do that, everything goes up, there's a little bit more work with it. If we would just pull the pavement off and put it back the way it is now, just living with what's underneath, then I think we could do it for in the neighborhood of about 175,000.
And what was it initially?
About 250 is what I was thinking initially. But that is not getting us nearly the strong section that I was hoping for by grinding up the old asphalt. That stuff buys us another 4 inches of gravel, and it's just a good thing.
What was done last time? Anybody know? Was it just grind up, set back down?
I have no idea.
Well, what was the gravel road that just was tired?
It was done once before, I remember this would have been in the, I would have been in high school when that was last.
That didn't be said.
Don't remind me.
Who are you? Well, my lifetime has always been tired, so if that helps.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, it's not the ideal fix to not, so the road broke up for a reason, and it's because our subgrade underneath it isn't great. So the way to improve that and improve our lifespan is to improve that subgrade. And that's why I was thinking you grind it up and put it back down on top and raise everything up, and you're just better off. But using the numbers from our contractor to just pull the pavement, repave it, like I said, 175,000.
And he came in at 150 under?
What's that?
Would it keep it coming in under?
We were about 180,000 under.
I mean, we also have street improvement funds that this would be something that would be, it's a pure surface project. But I also have to be careful that I have to excuse myself from this conversation because I live on 7th Street.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and then, in accordance with our assessment policy, that's something that needs to be covered too. And that means,
Right, there would be some
assessment hearings.
assessments there, not?
Yep.
Of some sort?
Up to some extent, yes. Yep. And, the thing about that roadway is, a lot of it is city property. So no matter what, we are going to bear the brunt of that cost. The assessments are not going to be a huge funding piece for us. As a matter of fact, for our conversation, I would say you assume that we're gaining almost nothing from assessments just because the frontage-wise, it's all city by comparison.
Do we have a fund for this, like a street project fund?
There's a street fund.
Do we know how much is in there? Is any of it back going to this project this year? Do we know?
So this project this year is almost entirely funded through USDA for their, or for the utilities. And we're paying for most of our streets with that utility fund as well, just because of, we're putting the streets back because we're fixing the utilities. There is about $80,000 that is non-eligible, and that stuff will probably have to come from the local share of that fund. So I don't know what the balance is in
But
that
as
fund.
far as the 2006 deed grant goes, we can apply this to 7th Street as well, is that correct?
Yeah, so the deed grant is, it was intended to, beautify or improve the businesses along Main Street was the main goal of that deed grant. But then the return funds come back to the city to be used in something that benefits the city as a whole. Now, with the amount of city property here, I could certainly see that argument that by improving 2 parks and a community center, that is all, all municipally owned, I can make that argument pretty easy and sleep just fine at night. That fund was talked about at one point for helping with the upcoming street light replacement that we know is coming. But that doesn't mean that couldn't be used for this. It would certainly be eligible, because those are 100% local funds. We have confirmation of that. So yes, as long as it has the citywide benefit, and like I said, because of all the publicly owned property down there, I think it does. I think those funds could be used there.
So these prices, would they, I don't know if you were thinking this summer yet, but do they change drastically if those guys are not in town anymore? So say next year or the year after?
So the prices for the 175 were off of their bid numbers. So
That they're here in town already?
yes, yep. So if we ask them to come back in the spring, they probably don't qualify. Now, with the volatility in pricing right now, I have no idea which way it's gonna go by spring. Our oil price is gonna continue to go up, probably, should some of the uncertainty with COVID go away, I think so. So hopefully those kind of offset each other and we kind of stay level is what I'm hoping for, but there's no guarantee in that.
What kind of time frame do we need to make? We need to pull the trigger on this.
Realistically, we need to, it's already been covered in a feasibility study. So the timeline is going to be assessment based. So we would need to call for a hearing on that, have the hearing, order plans, which are gonna be pretty straightforward and simple, and we can do those pretty quick. Order plans, then bid it. As we're sitting here, pretty much it's called July 1st. Honestly, it's going to be a real struggle to get it done this year if we go through and bid it fresh. If we add it by a change order to the contract, which is an option for us, we would have to clear that with USDA, and that would be fine, because it would be all non-participating local funds. Then it could probably get done this year, but we'd probably lose our assessment window, and I don't know that we can do that politically. So, that's your call up there, not mine, though.
This is where I kind of have to walk away.
Yeah, it is.
So, I've had it before.
We're also paying an underground contractor to do paving work with these numbers too. So his number probably is somewhat inflated from what the paving contractor would give you directly, just because he has some overhead and, hopefully for him some profit in there, just because if they don't make profit, they don't do a good job for us, So again, maybe there is an advantage doing that, maybe the prices do behave themselves and come in a little cheaper. The contractor will be back to pave in the spring no matter what, because we're not gonna let them put the final layer of asphalt on this fall. That's gonna go on in the spring anyway. So it's not like they won't be here to pave, because they will. So it's not the end of the world, but like I said, I think we were gonna do it.
We grind it up a bit for the winter, then pay for the spring.
I'm standing too close to Lauren to say yes to that.
I don't know, it's just make a mess of everyone, of the ditch
It does.
itself, but at the same time,
It can be done, yes, and I think honestly, it'd probably give you a better surface than what you have right
That's what
now.
I thought, but I need a better pack. I don't know.
Only because I'm afraid of what happens in this town if soils get wet and stay wet. I would say we don't do it, just because, like I said, if we get snow melt in there, we might have people stuck in their driveways in the spring. Um, On the other hand, I've had really good luck with certain patches setting up over the winter and hardening up and working really well, but I'm scared of that large of an impact. There's too many people to put down there. So,
I don't know if I would want that.
so the question
You
is,
got the lead on this.
A gravel road.
I'll come up, push my up.
Are you putting in tile?
I don't know.
We'll put some tile down, something like that.
So what are our thoughts with the deed? I heard you talking, but I wasn't,
We can use that money, it would qualify for the Sun Street project, it sounds like, or the street lights is what we're thinking about.
okay.
Right.
I believe there's about 90-ish thousand, I think, in that fund.
Okay.
Almost more pressing issue than the lights or the road, essentially, right?
all,
I don't know, the lights are bad too. But,
I would say right now with the number of people I've heard talk about the road, I would put that as a higher priority.
yeah.
I think the lights will continue to stand for a few years, but we just know that those poles are not solid, and they are going to continue. I mean, worst case scenario, you have a pole that becomes unsafe, you take that particular pole down, and you just leave a blind spot in your lighting system until we can get them back up. But I think this roadway is going to the point now where by next spring, it'll be really difficult to put any money into it. It probably already is to the point where we shouldn't be putting a lot of money into it, but it needs to be passable. It has accelerated in deterioration in the last 2 years more than I could ever imagine. Honestly, this conversation 3 years ago was saying, this roadway it's getting to be close to time. It has gone from close to time to past time really fast.
Joan, do you know what's in the street fund by chance, or do you have that for you?
Not off the top of my head, if you pull out your March, agendas though, or no, not March, April, there should be a quarterly report in there that would have a fund balance.
For some reason, it's right there.
And then we
So-
add, is it 72, right? That's what you asked me about last week.
Right, yep.
So if we look at 3 items, the deed thing, what, a percentage in our street fund, how do we incorporate yet though the assessment thing?
So the assessment is gonna pay, I don't remember what the assessment, I think the assessment revenue was about 60,000 total,
Right.
give or take on this.
And there's probably 5 property owners, 6?
Well, so there's more than that, so we'd actually assess everybody that even the back of their house comes to it, our policy says they're assessed.
Oh, is that right?
Now, is that a popular thing? Absolutely not.
Uh-huh.
As far as properties that actually front the roadway, what is it? Is it maybe 5?
I was speculating at
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I
so-
would guess about that.
Yep, so technically, the properties along 8th Street, that'd be to the east of Mike's house, all of those with frontage on, or with the back of the property
Yeah.
touching 7th Street would be assessed.
Question unrelated to Seventh Street.
Yes, sir,
What is the status of Eighth Street?
better than 7th.
Thanks.
I knew that was coming. 8th Street has held up pretty good, quite honestly, comparatively, and really for no reason why it has held up more. It's probably because it sees less traffic, low volume. Aside from a few garbage trucks, what do we have for loading on there? Almost nothing, that's probably the impact of it. I think there's actually tile underneath the roadway as well, under the curb in 8th, and that helps a ton as far as keeping our water on our section. So when we do 7th, we will cut some drain tile in that'll
discharge the ditch on either side. Half dozen crossings as we go, just to help improve that. That's a pretty cheap insurance policy to get water out of your subgrade. So that improvement is included in my numbers because I think it's necessary.
So the street improvements fund is the one that we'd be looking at. As of March 31st, $318,887.
And then add, I think it's 72,000 to that, because we do that, transfer that much each year into the street fund from the general,
So almost 400,000.
so, yeah.
Well, I think we should get it fixed.
I was gonna say, it sounds like it needs to be done, so it's just a
I
matter
think
of
we
when
get it fixed and whatever we can get for the best deal as far as when they can do it.
Yeah.
And how we have to fund it, I guess we just look into that the next month or.
Yeah, I think we come with a strategy to the July meeting, and if we are going to go down the assessment route, which I would recommend we do, I think then we have to get those hearings going and do it quickly, just for consistency. I think it's important. Yeah, we had the auditor or the appraiser give us a recommended cap on that as well, so we can certainly follow through with that as well. Because I think that would be appropriate, we did it for everybody else.
Right, that we would do, everybody else has it.
Yep.
And
It's
maybe
not-
just in-house do it, I guess,
Yeah, potentially.
type of thing.
Sorry, how much do you think Seventh Street will cost?
For easy math, let's call it 200,000, just for the sake of this conversation. Like I said, when I calculated it based on bid numbers, it was around 175, but just by the time we get everything said and done. Yeah, so,
So, I have a question. So, to do this project at the 175, figure
Yep.
200.
Yep.
That's without grinding it and putting it on.
that's with pulling the pavement off, grading it, and putting it back on.
How many years are we losing on grinding it, putting it down, and putting tar on top of it?
So, how many years are we losing? How many years did we get out of it last time?
I don't know, Nick, do the math.
Long time.
25? 25 plus?
Yeah.
And, you know, the question is, what was the improvement last time? Did we just mill off the top inch and a half, and put an inch and a half back? Or did we go down to gravel? And I have no records of it, I don't think it was really done as a major project, I think it was kind of done as a maintenance thing for the city. So I don't honestly know the answer to that, but I'd be really interested to know it, just because I think that would give us some idea what we can expect in the future. I mean, I could give you an idea as to how many tons it would be rated for if we know how much gravel's out there. But I don't really want to poke a lot of holes in that street if we don't have to. I would hope for 20 years no matter what we do.
Yeah, we get it moving depending on whichever way we feel later, which way we should do it.
Yeah, and if it ends up being a first thing in the spring project and the contractor, you know, first out of the gate, I think in the end, we're going to be better off bidding it separately, just for transparency reasons, rather than trying to add it. But there are options, we'll discuss those with Scott here too, make sure we're not getting ourselves in trouble legally. But-
I guess I would like to see it a whole separate deal.
Okay,
Just my own thing, not that all of a sudden rumor on the street, Rosemary got a street car too. You know where I'm going with
Oh, yeah, that's why I'm not
Eh, just a whole separate,
yep,
boom, project.
yeah, and
Well, what's the point of being mayor if you can't get this stuff to happen? You know?
I'm working on it now, that's coming up. But that type of deal,
we'll pull a plan together for you guys at the July meeting.
yeah.
That, you know, the other portion of that local road improvement program that doesn't involve 7th Street Southeast is Industrial Drive, heading toward Famous Feeds. And that is every bit as bad as 7th Street up southeast in spots. There are spots where that isn't so bad, but especially coming toward the stop sign coming down the hill there, that's an awful condition going around the corner. So basically what it is it's turning trucks that are causing trouble for us, loaded turning trucks. Not a surprise, but that's probably gonna take some improvements as well, whether that's a patch, and then we continue to apply for funds to make it all concrete is maybe the way to go. We cut out 1.5 inches or 2 and we pave it back for now as a patch. I think Lauren has done as much as he can with the cold patch out there. And, yep, it's bad. So we cut out the bad spots, pave them back as for now, maybe we include it right with this bid here. And get it.
Same time next year.
Yep, and get it so that it's manageable until we can hopefully find some money to do it right. I'm not usually a big fan of expensive Band-Aids, but in this case, the overall fix is so expensive that I think it's really the route to go. So I'll include those numbers in there, in the stuff for July here, so you guys can see where that's at as well. When I go out there and measure those up.
You would measure that over by industrial drive?
Yep, the bad spots. I can think of at least 3 spots right now that are gonna be significant patches. The rest of it's not that far behind, but it's better than the bad spots. All right, soil testing for the 2021 project. I got a couple of quotes for you guys. I didn't include them in your packet because they're extensive. Broad Intertech out of St. Cloud and ITT out of Wake Park were the guys that gave me numbers. ITT did our borings for us. Their project manager actually lives in town across from the vet clinic. So he gave us a pretty good price. They were just over $8,000 for the soil testing for our project. The other quote was about $15,000, so certainly was a discount given to us. Now, ITT's trip charge is a little higher, so if they end up coming up a couple more times, it's $70 versus $50. It's really the only discrepancy. So it could eat into that margin a little bit, but there's no way we're gonna eat into $7,000 worth. It's gonna be a couple $100. So I would recommend going with ITT on that one. But again, they're both reputable companies. I have no problem working with either one of them. Honestly, if it was a state aid project, I'd probably ask you to select Braun. Because it's not, we don't have those testing requirements, we just do the ones that are required by USDA, which are lesser, and I think ITT can absolutely handle it, so. If anybody wants to see the quotes, I can
Do we
have,
need to make a motion to that?
yes, please,
What was the difference on it?
about 7,000.
7,000?
Yeah. Not enough to, it's too much of a difference to select the higher one, I think.
Yeah, I'll
If
make a
the-
motion to accept
ITT.
Tim motions to accept ITT's quote, give it a second.
I'll second.
Sarah seconds, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
2021 project recommendation, I think we're going through that in new business, is that correct, Wyatt?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So as, my memo ran out of words, I think I did too.
Alright. Thank you, David.
Yes.
Scott, attorney?
I don't have as much. No, it really is, going through and putting together, since the last meeting, Dave identified a place, I think he mentioned that they might need to, pick up some additional easements, as part of this project. And so, yeah, he provided me with information of areas he needed some additional easements and put those together and sent them back around to Dave so he could get them signed.
Yep.
And we do have the signatures already from Arnden, so
Okay.
we just need them from Stevens yet.
Okay, we'll get on them.
So, making sure that you have a right to be on the ground that you're working on. You're not trespassing.
Pretty easy when the stormwater pipe goes under their building now and needs to get out of there.
And that's it.
Thank you, Scott. Nothing under old business? New business? Eddie Atkinson.
Well, I'm a lot smarter since I came. No, the Freeport Lions, they're gonna be doing some other projects out there, redoing the whole playground, by next spring, hopefully. But we kinda wanted to clarify, and, because we hired Jason Hessian to do the irrigation and the water things out there, if we could possibly get, him maybe to have a key in case something drastic happens on a weekend when we don't wanna bother the city. And the city's locked up, and like Jason, if he would leave town, he could leave the key with me or, with somebody. So that's kind of was what the Lions would like to see, if that would be, for the city to, years ago we did.
And what building is this?
I believe the pump, or maybe Lauren, can you help?
Back to the bathroom.
Yeah,
Back to the bathroom.
the bathroom thing by the pump, which I'm sure will be addressed once we get to the park thing too, which, and basically, he'll be the one we'll be calling anyway, I guess, if something doesn't work out.
Well, I would really like to see the city involved with this though, instead of just passing the key off of some sort.
Well, I think there was an incident or something during a tournament, when it might have been, on a Saturday or Sunday. And then Joe Hennon said that, I think he has a key for that thing, but nobody's ever brought his name up and to call him. So, maybe we should feel that out, see who all has access and,
Right.
other than,
I don't think it'd be, the Lions like at the last meeting.
yep,
You hired Jason to fix it a couple of years ago, right? If I remember right?
Yep.
All of that system. He's gonna be the guy that we would hire since he has the system. I think it would make sense if he would have a key in case something were to go wrong. Warren has a key, Joe has a key. So there'd be those three, where if Joe or Warren were not. Because I do remember when Stevie was here, we were running a fast pitch tournament. He was up at Wheat Fest. And I called him when we had a water problem, and he's like, what do you want me to do? And we couldn't get in the back room. So I see where this comes into play.
yeah, or you have a key somewhere where a person could get to it. Like community center for quite a few years there, we had a key in Atkins. Even the truckers weren't allowed to have their own keys, now they do, so now there's not a need for that, but that worked for a long time. That was basketball leagues and all that, too, people picking it up.
So, if I can interject here, I think the biggest thing that I would like to see on our end is that we have some sort of agreement drawn up, because it does involve the city's property. I think it would be good to have that in writing so that, it kind of absolves us or him of anything that would happen down there.
Yeah.
That's my biggest issue with this, is I would really like to have some sort of agreement done.
We'll be having a meeting probably in July here, again, to address that. Write something up, probably maybe have, like I said, doesn't have to be Jason, but something to say that, because the Lions are the ones usually that, do we help fix it too?
We footed the bill for it the last.
Yeah, and so, that's kind of where this is coming from, and the Lions are gonna put the brand new playground set in and all that too, so. And I don't know, are we gonna have more irrigation problems out there? Do we have that out in that part of the park? No.
Seems fine.
Huh?
Seems fine.
Okay. But, yeah, that'll be fine, it's not we're just trying to simplify things.
Yep.
But we can do that, draw something up,
Hold on. I think, if you put it uptown, one of the bars or something, all the times we would have a tournament, I have no problem putting a key on one of them. Something does happen, sheriff come and grab it, but at the same time, will they lose it or do whatever, don't know where it is or.
well, and even when there's a Lions meeting, there's different opinions on the same thing.
Yep.
Freeport, when it comes to the softball tournaments and all the different things, it's a community thing. Timmy Hennon knows all about that. You know, it's setting up church bazaars, you got the Main Street businesses towing the rope, but, whatever the city wants, we're just trying to make it simpler for more people to, because the place was in tough shape there for a while. And that's a tough spot, people come in there, and, but, you know, we'll take suggestions if somebody get, but I suppose there'd be a liability thing, I mean, ain't much they can steal out of there, but.
So what, yeah, what does the key get you into?
The back room where the pump is, the
That's
turn
it,
sprinklers
so it's
on.
not like-
Right, in an emergency situation.
Like you gotta shut the water or something like that, or whatever.
And then say if there'd be nobody in town with them. But since we discussed this thing 2 weeks ago, Joe Hennon has a key too. And he seems to remember that he wasn't asked. But that would be odd because he would have been out there. So,
Nobody may be in.
I think that's the key Jason has.
Fire department lock.
That's the key Jason has right now.
oh, okay, well, that might be it. Now, that might be the key that Jason used or got a hold of. So, but yeah, if you wanna, should we do it, or are you gonna write something up just to say that, the Lions, probably will be paying for the fixing of it anyway, so.
Sure.
To give us, you know, that clears Jason too, otherwise, right, or?
Yeah, the lines.
Yeah, I could take that on.
Yeah, just write something up and, drop it to me, and I can, next meeting here in July, we'll
Okay.
get it to it. Perfect. All right, any other suggestions, Lauren, or?
Well, I guess I guess I'm just looking at it like, the city shop's got 3 keys sitting in there
Yeah.
for that thing.
Yeah,
So you got me, Mike, Jim Notch.
yeah.
Call any one of us, somebody should be around out
Well,
of the 3.
that's what I thought was the consensus at the beginning, because I thought it was always solved, you know?
Yeah,
And now I found out there was more keys than, you know, but cooperation, I suppose, is, I don't know what,
yeah. And I guess we'd still wanna know if they're gonna go
well,
down there.
that would be the
You know,
whole
that's
thing.
the biggest thing.
And that got talked about at the Lions meeting, where there should have been better communication in that whole
Right.
last exchange.
You know, I
Right.
guess
But then it,
that'd be my thing, now we're just giving them.
Well, and there
It is a
too-
city building, and you're just giving a key
Yep.
to somebody.
Yeah,
I,
but I don't think we're asking for that, though. I don't. But there again, with what we're talking about here, cooperation.
Yeah.
So when Stevie's up at Wheat Fest, and you could call him up, and you'd say, okay, Jason is gonna be going in there this afternoon, or in an hour or so. You know, you can't get here, you know, and somebody knows at least.
Yeah.
So, from town, whether it's you or any one of you could
Yeah.
call and just so that somebody knows other than the,
yeah,
but.
As long
We're talking
as
about
there's
something
a
that probably won't happen
direction.
yet too.
Cause I also look at this a little bit, okay, that person has $100 a month water bill, that person has $100 a month water bill, and so on and so forth, or more. And if all of a sudden there's just an individual out there, if that's the boss of the Lions or whoever, oh God, we gotta dump water on the field because I think it needs it. I'd also like to, we're in a drought, and so I'd also like to have that monitored a little bit. My own personal feeling is that, because the water bitchin' bills are gonna come, you know, oh yeah, you can dump a ton of water on city property, and I'm, you know, my lawn's drying up because I can't afford it. So I think it has to be looked at just a little bit.
But
Of
that's
some
not
sort.
the conversation here. The conversation is trying to open communication back
Yeah.
up so that the Lions and say the city.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, you know, they might be overwatering too. But yeah, this is an odd year already, and
Right.
I would agree with you 100%.
That, I mean, if they have some key and,
But that isn't, the Lions ain't
asking for more watering or
Oh,
less watering or anything anyway.
Okay.
We're just asking that if next time, which,
Mhm.
now that I'm thinking about this a little more, this probably never happen again. So,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, Joanna might come or somebody, but
So Lauren, you, Mike, and what's his face, all have keys for this building, correct?
We all have a key to get into the city shop. And there's a key at City Hall
At
for
City
the
Hall.
city shop.
To go.
And they're in the
open up.
vehicles.
So realistically, one of three of you should be in town. 'Cause if you're out of town, Mike's gonna be in town, you go out checks anyway.
Yep.
So between one of the two of you, someone should be able to get in there and get down there. Probably the biggest thing is probably just someone, the right person had to get called and they didn't get called, essentially.
I still think what Eddie is saying has merit, where, put it at a bar, because that's gonna be open
Yep.
for any tournament going on, if there's a water problem.
Mhm.
Let's, I mean, if we really wanna start splitting hairs here, Lauren's gone camping, Jim has gone camping, Mike's got something at the center.
Yep.
So now all of a sudden,
Yeah.
the three people that have access to the maintenance shed where the key is, are out of commission.
Yep.
So I think having one key, designate a location
Yeah.
where, I don't know, at least somebody is able to get to it to go fix the problem. Or get the guy that we're gonna hire the key to go fix the problem. It's
Mhm.
a horse apiece to me, but I think summarizing the Lions at the last meeting, and that is what they wanted, if I recall. They just wanted access to get it fixed.
Yep.
Since they were footing the bill for it the last, I don't know, however many thousands we spent on it. But
Yeah, if you wanna put a central location, I'm totally fine with that too. Maybe ask Nick or Craig today, see if they're okay at holding on
I
to it.
think either one would be fine with it.
Cause that key only
I
gets
think-
into that building, correct? It doesn't get into any other ones, if I'm not mistaken, right?
No.
It's just that back shed.
Yeah, it just gets in there, I mean, I put a piece of tape on it and throw it in a drawer, and hopefully they remember where it is, I guess. I mean,
You don't get lost.
I mean, that's just my thing too, I mean, it's, I got tons of keys for stuff too, but that's not a bad idea.
Well, but I mean, what happens, and I'm not pitching against or for this, but I just wanna simplify the thing. But what happens, maybe where this, well, you can't get in there, so maybe at the softball park or something, you have to have a sheet of paper that says Lauren, Mike, and then, cause somebody, whoever's gonna be running the tournament, fast pitch, slow pitch, whatever it is, they're gonna need to be doing this, running around to find this, right? Or Jason will have to. So, or we just go without water, which,
Did Jason all
right?
right?
Yeah.
Well, that point,
I've seen that
I don't
place
know.
in horrible shape where the door was open, it should have been locked.
Yeah.
Years ago, it was horrible. But, well, that's a pretty good point, Jason is a line member too.
yeah, so it's not like he's a
Well,
guy that's
Yeah.
He's
from
not a-
Kimball that just does irrigation systems.
Right. Mhm.
You know, he's a local
Yeah.
guy, I mean, he's a line. I have no problem with Jason if he is a line. But,
I think that's up to you guys. Like I said, I'm just doing this to be a liaison for the Lions. And, yeah, Jason's a member, and so I think, just trying to simplify it, but you guys come up with a place to put it and do whatever. That's a good. But that never done it. And it doesn't have to be done ASAP, oh no. We'll get by just like we always do. Why would we not give Jason a key? He's a Lions member, and he's gonna be the guy that the Lions will call to fix it.
Biggest thing is I wanna have that agreement on it.
Yep.
Just because
Get it drawn up?
The liability on it, yeah, I'll take care of that, but since the city is the one with the liability insurance on it, I think that we should have something that says, if we're gonna be hiring a third party to do this,
Mhm.
yeah.
you know, we're not gonna be responsible.
Well, it's documented then,
And
where
then
the
he
last
could have
keys
the key.
obviously were not, so.
Right.
I was just gonna say,
It's a little
yeah.
more.
Right.
So, there we go.
Yeah.
So is the liability change, because then you would call? I'm just saying, it sounds like, you know, once we find this out, that something's wrong and it needs to be repaired, does this other person, whoever's running the tournament, does he have, can he call Jason and have him fixed, or, I mean,
I don't know, is that, is the city in charge of keeping the stuff fixed? That's, guess, my question. Because if they are, then they should be calling the people to get it done, and then the Lions will put the bills when the bills come in. And that's kinda how it's always been, but, normally, it just happens off the cuff where you get it fixed, and it doesn't have to have a protocol to get from A to B. I was speaking, I don't know.
I mean, it's a city-owned park, right?
So we own that land, but it's called the Lions Park, correct? From around? Yeah. Well, at that point, if the Lions are footing the bill anyway, then you guys make the call for the irrigation, for the sprinkler system.
Well, I
You
thought,
know.
and most of the time we do, but like I
Yeah.
say, other than the liability, I don't think it changes with any of that
I don't think so.
regardless.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
So, perfect, fine with me, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think, we'll write that up and we'll take that to the Lions, for the next meeting. I'm sure they'll go with it, they don't, to
That
vent on
we would
anything
have
anyway.
the Hessian do the work or whatever.
Yeah. So,
All right,
There we go.
Round up, Lions
Okay.
meet, when is it next? When do the Lions meet next?
it'll be the second Monday of July.
You got your deadline for that?
Yep.
Okay,
Thanks for coming, Eddie.
Thank you, Ed.
try to swing in, pick it up, Wyatt?
Yeah.
I'll
Yep.
do that. Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you, Ed.
Glad they picked the best looking line member to come represent.
Right.
See you guys. Have a good one.
Yeah. Next item, will be resolution 2021-09, authorizing incurrence of debt for infrastructure repair. Alright, what are we looking at here?
So, Dave, is this the one you're getting at, or is that the next resolution that's in the
The
packet?
next one is mine, but I can answer this one too if you need.
Okay, so from my understanding, resolution 2021-09 is stating that we are taking on debt to have this project completed. I guess I don't really have much to add besides that.
Yeah, this is USDA required form is what.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2021-09.
Second?
I'll say
Jake seconds. Is this a roll call thing, or can we just? Okay. All right, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
That's pretty fast, that 2.6.
Yeah, that's the fastest money we've ever seen.
I should.
Well, there's a couple of months into it,
Yeah, right, it's.
but,
Mhm.
yeah.
So did that change from the original, like, USDA, going back to like page 28? So Keekly came in, obviously 1.8, and then you add all this other stuff into it, and you're at that 2.6. What was the original estimate that you originally quoted?
We're about 2.9,
Yeah, it was 2.9.
Okay.
2.9 something.
Yeah, because I saw it earlier, like,
Yep.
someplace, but I didn't see where all that other stuff came in.
Yep.
To make it a total of 2. Okay. Good. Thanks.
Good. Letter C, resolution 2021-10, resolution accepting bid.
This is the formal acceptance of Keekly's bid. So then the city will be, this is authorizing Mike to enter into the contract with Keekly as a signer of this for the city. on behalf of the city.
Was it a smiley face?
Whatever you want.
Like a normal face or an upside down face when this came up? You worked with them before, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so if, I can go through the bids too. In my memo, recommendation is the formal term for it. I attached all the bids, you can see where all the contractors came in there. I was pretty confident that the three low bidders, or the three lowest, were going to be our three lowest, and I've been happy to work with any of those three. Keekly has done a ton of projects for me. As a matter of fact, they were arguing internally about which project manager was going to do it, the guy that lived closer, the guy that worked with me more often. The guy that works with me more often won out, but in the end, I'm very comfortable with them. They're gonna do good work for us. They're not going to nickel and dime us for any little thing they find out there. They're gonna work with us on everything. We're gonna find things that we aren't expecting, because it's an underground contract, but I'm very comfortable with them.
Do they have a projected start date?
So their projected start date for actual underground work is the week of the 19th, I think, is July 19th. Is that a Monday?
Mid-July?
Yeah, so mid-July. Yeah, so projected start date for underground is that week. It could be a week later depending upon how the crews come off their previous jobs, but no matter what, the completion date doesn't change no matter when they start here. So after we get this approved tonight, I will get a letter out, actually be a newsletter out to the people on the project to give them timelines, give them contact information, let you know who my guy is gonna be in the field, all that information that, tell people what to do with pretty colored stakes in their yard, all that kind of thing that people have questions about.
No,
Because that's the next question, is they will get a list of, like, who's doing the paving, who's
Yep.
doing, because that's been a lot of questions.
Yeah, and that will continue to be a lot of questions, I'm sure, yeah. And so, yeah, I'll go through all the subcontractors, and I just, unfortunately, I can't send any of that out until the council says we're gonna do the project, because otherwise it's a little premature now. Quite honestly, I have most of it written, assuming you guys are going to award the contract tonight, but we will get that out probably early next week, so it gets to people by the end of next week, so they can see it in their hand. Say, here's what's coming.
a question slash comment I
Sure.
have. In the world we're living in now, getting metal items is almost become close to extremely difficult. And I know fire hydrants and water shutoffs, and I could babble on, you know them all,
I do.
are made out of metal.
They are.
Rumor on the street, we don't get it, we'll get it next year in September and shit like that.
So, I can tell you right now that this is even more difficult because we have American iron and steel requirements, so it's gotta be American made. We can't take even some of the, honestly, a lot of the fittings come from Mexico, from Star Pipe. The contractor, the day after he got the bid, with my telling him, I was pretty confident that we move forward, actually ordered our hydrants already,
Okay,
to know that they could get them. It was a 2-month lead time on hydrants.
okay.
Yeah.
He's already got them ordered on his risk, based on my word. So, as far as that goes, he's
But
done
there-
everything
there's
he can.
all that stuff.
It
you
is.
know?
It's a disaster. Now, the good
Right.
thing is, a lot of our stuff is plastic. Almost all of our pipe is plastic.
I hear that's impossible too with the resins and stuff that's made out of.
Yep, the nice thing is, the sizes we're using are so incredibly common, there's just massive stockpiles of it.
Okay.
So if we were doing anything that was out of the ordinary, that's absolutely a problem. If we were gonna try to get some 4-inch pipe that people aren't used to using, we'd have trouble with it.
Okay.
6 and 8, which is our primary pipe sizes here, are ready to go. So now we're gonna give the contractor an option whether they are going to use plastic storm sewer or concrete storm sewer, because USDA makes me. I have been told they're gonna use concrete because they can get it. So just, it's gonna be an availability thing, but all that pricing is built in, they're stuck with their prices no matter if they can get them or not, so.
Okay, we're just.
No, it's a fair question, and it is a concern, it's been a real pain.
Right.
And you're dealing with it every day, just like I have been too, so. Yeah, it's a legitimate concern, but I'm confident they have an inside track on the stuff to get it.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2021-10.
Second?
I'll second that.
Nick seconds. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? Carried. All right, next one, Initiative Foundation 2022 budget confirmation. What is this?
Okay, so the work that I've done with the Initiative Foundation in the past, the conversations I've had and the research that I've done, what they're all about is helping the cities find grants or opportunities for funding that can be applied specifically to our situations. So granted, these things are hard to come by, but if we had a road improvement grant that they thought we might be eligible for, they would put it on our radar. They would notify us that something's coming due, and that we can certainly go and apply for it, because I'll be honest, I've looked for grants before, and digging through those databases, it's something I prefer not to do. It's mind-boggling. There's many pages and lots of reading to do on each one.
What does this cost us?
This could cost us whatever you guys decide on. Could be $100, $200, $300, whatever you guys feel like confirming for the budget for 2022. They run off of donations.
Really, just for free? I almost can't believe that. No one does anything for free anymore.
Well, $0 isn't a donation, but.
Did you use these at St. Martin?
Yes.
Was it successful?
There were, but those projects that we had started looking into, I wasn't around to see through fruition, so I don't know if those projects actually got capitalized on, but they did help us find grants that were applicable to St. Martin's situation.
Yeah, if it makes Wyatt's job easier, I will think we should absolutely give a donation.
I mean, no offense, I'm not about making jobs easier, but if it's a benefit to the city, like if there's, like, Scott, have you heard about this at all? Like, have you ever?
I am familiar with the Initiative Foundation, and I know that I forget the name of a very rich person that had money to burn, lumber baron or something, is responsible for setting up this fund with the idea of trying to get, you know,
Not a liquor baron.
money to cities. That's their, you know, they have grants, they've got loans. Sometimes it's to cities, sometimes, you know, they do loans if it's like a bridge. You know, if they think there's a business that's a good business, but they just can't, they're short, to get started or to expand, they'll provide that kind of gap funding. They're a nonprofit that's got money that they need to spend. So, you know, if you give them $500, you know, you get on their radar. I know it's,
Can't hurt.
yeah, maybe, you know, you get a project, I don't know what they do for roads, but maybe the lights, if there would be something like that, or.
Have you heard of anybody working with this?
So are these guys out of Little Falls?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, I've worked with them myself. So I'm working on a veteran memorial in Malacca, where it was actually a community organization that raised the funds with the help of the Initiative Foundation to improve a city park. So they ended up being kind of the city of Malacca ended up kind of being a third-party beneficiary to it. Whereas if they had been a member, it would have probably been a little easier. If they'd have been, you know, contributing and on that radar, like you mentioned, it's probably a pretty easy $500 to spend to get your name out there and have that assistance. Now, if it's a road grant, that's through the state of Minnesota or the feds, you're still gonna probably come through me. I mean, that's, I'm gonna be the one that tells you about it, I'm gonna be the one that helps you with it, that's probably gonna be the case. But it's some of these other local things, maybe it is somebody wants to build a daycare in town, and they have a grant program through the Initiative Foundation. City of Freeport's a member, now you connect these people, and now you've helped a business come to town. I use daycare as, because I know that they've done programs with daycares in the past. Are they current right now? I don't know. But just, I think it is a connection that you can offer to people, even if it doesn't benefit the city directly. I think it could benefit the city directly, but it's more likely to benefit the city indirectly, if I had to guess.
So we just got a handy up.
Realistically, I think, yeah.
Oh, we just spent 2.6.
So it's not as much, it's not as much about getting our new playground equipment. It's more about,
What?
Playground equipment.
It could be.
It
Like
could,
the Lions Park.
it could also maybe help get us the sidewalk, or not?
A sidewalk, potentially. Yeah, absolutely.
County Road 11.
Those are the kind of things, yeah, whether they maybe help pay a local match, as much as anything, they would be a supporter,
Yeah.
to send a letter.
I'll make a motion for $500 for this. I don't know if I can or not.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
If it gets us on the radar for more money,
Believe it or not, even like a business in town, you know, we're gonna get the tax money from that anyway.
When
You
you
know.
get,
Well,
when you get their information about what their programs are, you'd probably wanna share that with like the EDA. and
Yeah.
Get out to when the chamber, and, you know, 'cause if, you know, if you've got projects looking for money.
right?
to see what's out there, you know.
Wyatt, you got notes to that, to show to the EDA and the chamber next?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Carried. Motion to adjourn,
So move.
all in favor? Aye. Wait, did you second that?
I did.
Looking at Sarah, but yes,
Oh.
I did.
Did Sarah second?
I didn't say that.
No, she didn't. So I was looking at her.
I didn't even know you were looking at me.
Hey, Sarah.
I think I got last year.
I got this Thursday here before.
I did before that.
For that next council meeting.
A lot of numbers there.
More people will attend.
I hope not.
When can I get?
This is a little expired,
Yeah, it is. Wow,
so.
that's a good one.
What year is it?
2017,
Well, some of the dates line up after a while.
so we should have 2020.